Russia launched a new strike on Ukraine, while Volodymyr Zelenskyy arrived in France for talks with Emmanuel Macron. This is just part of the important news of the day, which I, Mikhail Bernanov, will tell you about next. Hello. The presidents of Ukraine and France met at the Élysée Palace and held talks. According to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, they talked for several hours. Among the issues discussed were energy and defense, as well as coordinating further steps to achieve a just and lasting peace and strengthening security guarantees for Ukraine. The main topic of discussion was the American peace plans in close coordination with European partners. After the president's one-on-one meeting, a joint video call is scheduled with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, as well as other European leaders and EU officials. The discussion will focus in particular on security guarantees within the coalition of willing countries. Amsterdam is allocating an additional €250 million to the PURL initiative for the purchase of American weapons for Ukraine. This was announced by Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans. He noted that Ukraine is currently in urgent need of military assistance and called on other European countries to join the initiative.
The Netherlands became the first country to contribute to PURL. We've allocated a full package of €500 million after the summer. And of course, we are also urging others to do the same. We have seen various countries also spend significant amounts on the PURL program. Germany, Norway, Denmark, and others. Now we see that Ukraine is truly in urgent need of anti-aircraft missiles and equipment for the F-16. That is why we are contributing another €250 million.
A meeting of the EU Foreign Affairs Council was held in Brussels with the participation of defense ministers from the member states of the European Union. Representatives from Ukraine were also present at the meeting, including the head of the Defense Department, Denis Schmidt-Hall. Our special correspondent for Freedom TV in Europe, Vitaly Sizov, will provide more details about the steps that were taken at the meeting. He is live with us in the studio. Vitaly, good afternoon. The floor is yours.
Mikhail, good afternoon. While the diplomatic track is underway in Paris, with preparations for a draft of a possible peace agreement, here in Brussels, technical work continues to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities in order to make its position at the negotiations as confident as possible. And today, Ukraine signed an agreement to launch joint drone production with the Netherlands. This agreement was signed by Ukraine's Minister of Defense, Denis Schmidt-Hall, and his Dutch counterpart, Ruben Brekelmans. Ukrainian minister spoke about this agreement.
The document paves the way for the joint production of Ukrainian drone systems, both in Ukraine and in the Netherlands. Production will be split between Ukraine and the Netherlands. The drones will be purchased by the Dutch side and handed over to the Ukrainian Defense Forces. We continue to scale up the production of the best examples of Ukrainian weaponry in cooperation with our partners. Denis Schmidt-Hall, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Just half an hour ago, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, summed up the results of the meeting at a press conference. She emphasized that all members of the European Union, everyone in Brussels and in Ukraine, welcome the path to peace, except for Russia. And this is evidenced by Russia's ongoing attacks against Ukrainian infrastructure and other facilities within the country. She stressed that we must always remember there is one victim, Ukraine, and one aggressor, Russia. And that's why it's necessary to support the victim and not encourage the aggressor. These statements came amid ongoing preparations for possible peace negotiations. She emphasized that Europe has already allocated nearly €200 billion to help Ukraine. And today, there was discussion about how to mobilize additional private investment for Ukraine's defense industry. Kallas also called for strengthening European defense, because in her opinion, even if some kind of agreement is reached with Russia, if Europe is not strong enough, then Russia will not respect or abide by such agreements. Flagship projects to strengthen the European Union's defense were also discussed, such as monitoring the eastern flank, and she specifically thanked Finland for its leadership in developing and preparing to implement this project. She also shared her position regarding the diplomatic track between Ukraine and the United States, and in general regarding the possibility of diplomatic resolution. Kallas presented her position today before the meeting.
It is obvious that Russia does not want peace, and that is why we need to strengthen Ukraine as much as possible so that it is ready to stand up for itself during this very, very difficult time. This week could be a key one for diplomacy. Yesterday, we heard that the negotiations in America were difficult but productive. There are two things we are doing. First, we are putting pressure on Russia with new sanctions and a reparations loan, which it is very afraid of. Second, we are providing Ukraine with military, financial, and humanitarian support so that it can hold out longer than the Russian Federation.
As she wrapped up her press conference, Kaja Kallas specifically emphasized that Russia must pay for the damage it has caused. And one of the ways to do this is through a reparations loan, which is currently being considered as one of the options for providing Ukraine with additional funding for the next 2 years. Kallas admitted that there is still no consensus on this issue, although most countries support directly allocating a reparations loan using frozen Russian assets. But in her view, this is the most convenient option, convenient for all countries, and naturally, she will defend this position. She also talked about what she discussed with Ukraine's Minister of Defense, Denis Shmyhal. He called on European countries to do more to support Ukraine. He emphasized the need for additional drones and ammunition. According to Kallas, work in this direction has not stopped, of course, and will continue. The Ukrainian minister's visit to Brussels is ongoing, as we have repeatedly announced. Meetings are planned at NATO headquarters as well, and we are following this visit closely. We will report any updates to the minister's work schedule and on any new agreements reached during this trip. Mikhail?
Thank you, Vitaly, for the detailed and important information. We were joined live by Vitaly Asizov, special correspondent for Freedom TV channel in Europe. He spoke about the meeting of the EU Foreign Affairs Council with the participation of defense ministers from EU countries and the steps approved at the meeting to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities. And now to other news of the day. 4 people were killed, 40 were injured. Apartment buildings, a school building, and a car service station were damaged. In the morning, Russian Federation forces struck Dnipro with a ballistic missile. The epicenter of the explosion was one of the city's central districts. More on the aftermath of the attack in the report from our correspondents.
There was heightened danger at that moment, and I was leaving the dean's office. And then, right away, an explosion. The shockwave was immediately very strong. All the OSB boards and film on the windows were ripped out. Elena works at the university, which is located near the epicenter of the explosion. She says that when the air raid alert was given, she got ready to go down to the shelter. But she didn't have time to reach it before an explosion went off very close by. People immediately started running into the building from the street. Many of them were injured. The first thing that happened was panic, hysteria. There was a girl. I still remember her. We couldn't calm her down. She was just shaken. And then people started coming into the shelter. Some were hit by shrapnel, others were thrown by the blast wave. People's arms and legs were scraped up. The ones who suffered the most were the employees of the auto repair shop and the office building next door. The windows were blown out in the university building and the sports complex. Several high-rise residential buildings were partially damaged. Igor was at home when the missile strike happened. The man says his apartment is on the 3rd floor of a 15-story building. The blast wave from the strike blew out the windows and doors.
And then boom, it just went off.
And then boom, it just went off. There was glass all over the apartment, from the windows to the doors. And the doors were blown out. They flew right past me. Katerina lives in a private house half a kilometer from the epicenter of the strike. She says she heard a very loud explosion. The feeling came crashing down on her.
We heard the air raid alert right away, and then we ran. Literally a minute later, the ceiling started to fall. Liada is heading to the basement. It actually tore her out, and she ended up in the hallway.
Now, residents of the damaged houses are receiving the necessary materials to temporarily cover the broken windows. Medical workers are providing assistance to the injured. December 2nd has been declared a day of mourning in Dnipro. According to
At least 5 people were injured as a result of the Russian shelling of the village of Chornobaivka in the Kherson region. The victims suffered concussions, blast injuries, and traumatic brain injuries. According to local authorities, in the morning, the Russian Federation Army struck the settlement with artillery and multiple rocket launchers. About 50 private houses, 2 apartment buildings, a gas pipeline, and power lines were damaged and partially destroyed. In addition, the Russian occupiers attacked the village of Rakovka with drones. 1 person was wounded there, as well as a residential area in Kherson where 4 civilians were injured. In the morning, the Russians also attacked Mykolaiv with Shahed-type drones. As a result of the strike, the roof of a 9-story residential building and the elevator shaft caught fire. The fire was extinguished. Pyrotechnics experts inspected the site of the Russian UAV strike and the surrounding area. According to rescuers, 240 people were evacuated from nearby houses, a lyceum, and a kindergarten. No one was injured. In total, on the night of December 1st, Russia launched 89 drones at Ukraine. More than 50 of them were Shaheds, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. Ukrainian air defenders neutralized 63 drones of various types in the north, south, and east of the country. The air attack was repelled by anti-aircraft and missile forces, electronic warfare and drone units, as well as mobile fire groups of Ukraine's defense forces. At the front, over the past day, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces recorded 171 combat engagements. Most Russian attacks, 66 in total, were repelled in the Pokrovsk direction. Another 21 Russian assaults were repelled in the Alexandrovsk sector, 16 in the Konstantinov sector, 12 in the Slavyansk sector, 11 in the Lyman sector, and 9 in the Gulaipolye sector. According to military experts, Ukrainian forces have improved the situation in the Kupiansk area.
Our troops are holding the south, trying to clear and drive the enemy out of these areas. But most importantly, our units are partially cutting off the logistical routes to the northwest. And now they're facing a serious situation regarding how to ensure supply. From a military standpoint, organizing this is a challenge. From a military perspective, this strategic situation is entirely understandable, which is precisely why they are actively attempting to transfer additional and appropriate reserves to this critical area and, consequently, prevent our dedicated units from successfully carrying out their crucial plan to effectively cut off the vital logistical supply routes in the Kupiansk region. 1060.
Russian occupiers were eliminated by Ukraine's defense forces over the past day. Thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the total losses of the Russian Federation's army since the start of the full-scale invasion have already reached nearly 1,174,000 soldiers. In addition, yesterday, a Russian tank, 6 armored combat vehicles, 14 artillery systems, as well as 71 units of enemy automotive and special equipment were destroyed. And now we return to the main topic of the day. Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with Emmanuel Macron in Paris. The Ukrainian leader arrived in France today for a visit, accompanied by First Lady Olena Zelenska. The presidents have scheduled a phone conversation with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the leadership of the European Union, and other European leaders. It is also expected that the leaders will visit the production facilities of the French aerospace company, Dassault Aviation, as part of the Ukrainian delegation's visit. The foreign ministers of the 2 countries, Andriy Sybiha and Jean-Noel Barrot, have also already held meetings.
As always, we had a substantive and important discussion focused on Radomir's efforts, the coalition of the willing, and Ukrainian-French defense cooperation. We coordinated our steps on European affairs, particularly in the context of effectively using the SAFE mechanism to develop joint projects with Ukraine, further contributions to the NATO PURL initiative, and the decision to fully utilize frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on the social network X.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.